Have you ever not got the hype for something? Well, that was me with Elden Ring. Wait. Let me explain. For as long as I can remember, I've never been one for difficult games. Going back to my younger years, my fondest memories of gaming are with things like Terraria, Kid Icarus Uprising, and Ocarina of Time, with that last one in particular being a childhood favourite of mine. Whilst I saw friends of mine move towards more challenging titles, I'd never been allured by anything with higher difficulty. Not truly. Now I know this is the part where I'm supposed to say, all that changed with Elden Ring. But in truth, it didn't. In fact, it probably got worse. I had seen all the trailers leading up to the release, and I couldn't wait to try it. The fights looked breathtaking, the customization looked impressive, and the environment was beautiful. The medieval fantasy setting was something that appealed to me greatly, being a huge Zelda fan. So when I finally got my hands on a copy a few months later, I just couldn't understand my disappointment. As hard as I tried, I just didn't get the game. Everything hit me way too hard and came at me at a speed that made reaction impossible. But if I was finally given the chance to, I barely did any damage. Adding on to that, I knew barely anything about the story. The opening cutscene left me confused on who exactly those people were and what exactly my objective was. I knew only one thing: claim the Elden Ring and become Elden Lord. Except, what exactly was the Elden Ring? And what did it mean to be Lord? Despite how hard I searched, how hard I fought, I couldn't even make it past Godric. And that made me angry. I tried the game over and over. I'd made 3 different characters with over 10 hours each, and no matter what I did, I just couldn't understand the story, I didn't understand the combat, and I just didn't get the game. Everybody else loved it. They called it a masterpiece and the best game of our generation. So why didn't I feel that way? What was wrong with me? And I resented feeling like that. I resented a game making me question myself, making me wonder what I was doing wrong. In fact, it embarrassed me how something everybody else loved could make me feel so inferior. So I gave up. After getting thrown around in Caelid for the last time, I walked away and didn't look back. I took the game out of the PS4 and left it inside its case, on a shelf, never to be picked up again. Until May 2024. Around this time, Elden Ring started to get a huge buzz again. With the DLC right around the corner, and the biggest streamer on the planet playing the game for the first time, it was everywhere. The builds, the bosses, they inspired me. Videos of the customization started appearing all over my feed again, and a familiar feeling rose inside me. With all that in mind, I picked up the controller for the final time and began my journey to become Elden Lord. From my previous attempt to Elden Ring, it was more than clear that I didn't understand the combat system. Of the 10 starting classes, I had tried 3, and none of them felt remotely comfortable to me. So it was crucial that before even beginning, I found a starting class that complemented my playstyle. The biggest problem I felt I had was speed. Every spell took too long to come out. Using a greatsword made my attacks feel sluggish and unsatisfying. So after asking my brother, he recommended me trying the samurai class. I immediately felt more confident using the Uchi-katana than any other weapon I'd tried. Of course, I was still getting steamrolled by the tree sentinel, but now I felt I was actually putting up some sort of fight. The biggest learning curve I had with the combat system was learning that the mechanics aren't crucial to turning the tide of the battle. The timing is. Whilst parrying can stagger and give you a quick critical hit, the real challenge comes from understanding the strengths and weaknesses of your weapon, your character stats, and finding the right time to attack. Learning a boss's attack pattern and utilizing every window I could for a light attack was much more effective in the long run for me, as opposed to tanking hits so I could hit back. It taught me not to get overconfident because I had a strong weapon, and made me use my head. Margit, the first main boss you run into, reinforced that lesson for me. No matter how strong you think you are in the early game, Margit still poses a formidable challenge. His moveset beat the eagerness out of me and taught me that this isn't that kind of game. The delayed moves messed with me repeatedly. Every time he raised his cane in the air, I scrambled as far as I could, rolling over and over until I either fell off the cliff or got hit when I was out of stamina. It was only by standing my ground and getting up close whenever he did that attack that I learned to wait for the swing before I rolled. After everything we deal with in our journey to become Lord, we often forget and overlook Margit. For most people who hadn't played a Souls game before, I believe that if Margit hadn't been designed like that, a lot of us still wouldn't have learned the lesson about panic rolling until a lot later in the game. At least, I know I wouldn't have. And whilst he didn't end up being my favourite battle, with that title going to Mesmer, I still look back on his fight with admiration and enjoyment. However, the same cannot be said about Rennala. In what ended up being my first complete playthrough, there were two bosses that I struggled with ridiculously, the first of which being Rennala. It's widely agreed upon by the community that she is a fairly easy boss, but looking back, I've never been more annoyed in my life. I don't know what it was, but being pelted by books in the first phase, and her giant Kamehameha in the second, I just could not beat her. In fact, she brought me close to quitting for the fourth time. It took a 2-day break before I said enough is enough and ran back in. Once I finally had the first phase on lock, I had to break down what it was about her second phase that I just couldn't handle. She was more agile than me, she had stronger summons than me, and she had multiple projectiles that she was able to use all at once against me. Just before I was ready to quit, I was brought back to my experience with Margit and how I overcame his cane attack by standing my ground. If Rennala is given room to breathe, she's extremely dangerous, swiftly moving around the stage, sending projectiles at you, and summoning anything from a giant to a dragon. All of those things can quickly send you back to the site of grace. It was only by overcoming the fear of being hit that I became confident enough to run straight towards her. By being just as relentless as she was, by closing the gap and not giving her the window to get projectiles airborne, she was hopeless, and I triumphed. After that battle, I felt a lot more comfortable with the combat. By this point, I was dual-wielding Uchi-katanas and had unlocked Rebirth, so I could properly redistribute my stats. However, the combat wasn't the biggest struggle I had with the game at first. In fact, My biggest issue was with my understanding of the story.
Oh yes, tarnished are we?
Righteous tarnished.
Aspiring Lord of the Old Order,
You will witness true horror. May the Golden Order shine through you.
Hello again, old friend.
One of my favourite things about Elden Ring is the level of trust that is placed on you as the player. Up until Elden Ring, I'd never really played a game where I had to actively want the story. Things like Spider-Man or God of War don't need you to seek the story, it's presented to you. As long as you follow the main missions in these games, it places you in situations with its characters. It holds your hand and tells you, this is your relationship with these people. This is how you feel about the world, this city. This is your moral code. This is your goal. Elden Ring did something completely different, which I resented at first, but grew to love. It made me search for the story. When you're first placed in the Lands Between, you're told by Melina and Vare who exactly you are. A tarnished. You find out that your kind is guided by grace to seek the Elden Ring and become Elden Lord. With this knowledge you progress forward, beat Margit, Godric, Rennala, and before you know it, you're at Leyndell. I found that a lot of people followed that structure, beat the game in 30 hours, and had a great time. But I found myself being frustrated by that. Throughout my first 3 attempts, I was battling with the only goal being to win. I wanted to beat this boss, I wanted to beat this game. But by the 4th, I started questioning myself. What was I fighting for? Who was I fighting for? I wanted to know what the Elden Ring was, what it meant to become Lord, and who was Marika really? Was there any point, any reason to all of this beyond beating the game? And for one of the first times in any of my video game experiences, the game rewarded that. Asking all of these questions led me to exploring every corner of the world. I wasn't just placed in front of Millicent and told what she needs. I only found her because I was running from a dragon in Limgrave and got ensnared in a trap and sent to a crystal mine in Caelid. I found Gowry not far away who helped me halt her illness by telling me about the needle. This girl who was cursed with rot and pests who worshipped her for the very thing that was killing her quickly became one of my favourite people. Both on completely different journeys, and yet we ran into each other over and over again and fought by each other's sides over and over again. This girl, Millicent, was doing exactly what I was doing, not only as a tarnished, not only as a player, but as a person, stumbling through life trying to gain a sense of who we are and what we're supposed to do. As the fog over her mind slowly lifted, Millicent discovered even more of her memories, her person, her purpose. As corny as it may sound, seeing her evolve from an invader in a swamp filled with rot to going on a journey of self-discovery genuinely warmed my heart. So at the end of it all, after battling her sisters, triumphing and being moments away from returning to Millennia the piece of herself that she abandoned, when Millicent lay down and told me she took the needle out, my heart just sunk, and there was nothing I could do to change it. The only thing that gave me comfort was her justification, her final words.
thank you. With your help, I was able to live as my own person, if only in passing. But this is where things end. I paused to even tell you, but I took out the needle myself. Tell whoever put you up to this, that if I am to flower into something other than myself, I would rather rot into nothingness as I am.
I've spoken about this before, but one of my favorite themes to explore is humanity. It was the basis for episode 1 in this series, and it's something that is consistently in my thoughts. Watching Millicent go from powerless, rotting away in that church, to regaining her agency and deciding she wants to go out on her own terms, as herself and nothing but that, really stuck with me. A small side quest that a standard player could easily miss, having that manner of storytelling, is one of the things that makes this game so special. A misadventure fighting a dragon can lead to an absolutely heartbreaking story. For every question I've had, for every I wonder where this goes, the game sent me somewhere new, gave me something new. Before I'd even realized it, a feature I'd glossed over in every video game had become one of my favorite aspects in this one: item descriptions. Every time I picked up a new armor set or weapon, I opened my inventory, pressed square, and devoured whatever scrap of information the thing had to offer me. It became routine to read and reread any descriptions mentioning places or people, almost like assembling a puzzle. It wasn't until beating the game that I realized it had given me something back which I didn't even know I'd lost. My curiosity, my childlike wonder. When I was younger, I used to spend hours exploring the worlds in games like Ocarina of Time. The story is fairly linear, but there were so many small mysteries that myself and other Zelda fans wanted to uncover. I used to spend hours watching lore videos, theories, and eventually doing some theory crafting of my own. But as time went on, I stopped doing that. I hadn't even realized it until I felt the joy of doing it again with Elden Ring. It sounds like a cliche, I know, but as you grow, that childlike wonder and glee does slowly dissipate, and you don't even realize it's happening. A complaint I had, and one I see fairly often, is that when going back to Elden Ring after an initial playthrough, there is just so much going on and so much to find. From the talismans to the sorceries to the larval tears, there's a lot in the game and it can be overwhelming. But that complaint is something that eventually faded for me, as after hours of searching and hunting for pieces of lore about the lands between, I realized this game is only as deep as you want it to be. Whenever I spoke to my brother or my friends, they didn't have a clue what I was talking about when I mentioned Godwyn, the Glow-Eyed Queen, or any other mysteries in the game. They never had those theories or questions about those people because they didn't look for them, and that's not what gripped them about this world. If you don't want to stop and read every item description to learn about a small character's secret, you don't have to. If you just want to fight the bosses and push the limits of what an optimized build can do, you can. If you hate the idea of hunting for lore and story instead of being told it, the game gives you your path and your goal. You can bypass the mystery and swing that great sword all the way to the throne. You're not punished for not exploring the entire world. It's an open door. The game just asks if you want to walk through. It implicitly trusts in your desire, or lack thereof, to explore, get curious, and to fight. That level of faith in the player is something I respect immensely. To be completely supportive of how anyone plays the game, irregardless of your world building, is something that takes a lot of selflessness, and it shows through how, despite our different journeys in the lands between, we can all agree we had an amazing experience. For as long as I've been talking about the world building and the story, I still haven't spoken about my favourite person in Elden Ring, Ranni the Witch. More than anyone else, Ranni is the most divisive character in the Elden Ring community. Nearly all of the events in the game are a direct consequence of her actions, for better or worse. In not wanting to be a puppet to the Two Fingers, and consequently the Greater Will, she devised a plan, the Night of Black Knives. Ranni stole a shard of the Rune of Death and used this power alongside the Black Knife assassins to murder a demigod, Godwyn the Golden. She did this to shed her Empyrean body, but simultaneously preserve her spirit. In her grief over the loss of her son, Marika shattered the Elden Ring, which causes the events of the game we play through. When I discovered the despair the Lands Between had fallen into was due to her actions, I expected to have a slight aversion to the character, but I didn't. If anything, she made me curious. When confronting her about her role in that night, she outright admits it, but I couldn't help but feel there was a hint of regret in her voice. So I entered into Ranni's service, not just for the curse mark of death, but also because I wanted to learn more about her. My own curiosity seemed to, in turn, spark curiosity in her too.
If my past and past wounds beckon to thee, I am curious enough to see what thy destiny portends. I'll allow it. Enter my service, and good hunting to thee.
By entering into her service, I was led to one of my core memories with the game, entering the Shifra River for the first time. Seeing those stars against that purple sky shocked me, and in all truth, that was the moment I got the game. I remember just sitting there for a good 10 minutes, stunned, and taking captures. At that moment, I finally understood what people loved about Elden Ring. After discovering that Radahn was holding back the stars, and as such the way to the Fingerslayer blade, I fought alongside Blythe, Alexander, and so many others in the Radahn festival in order to help Ranni along her dark path. The more I learned about her, Blythe, and Iji, the more I began to like the characters. They felt so familiar, and in all honesty, if I was ever going to quit on that playthrough, they kept me going. Following Ranni after giving her the Fingerslayer blade led me to the Ainsel River, where in speaking to a miniature version of her, I discovered just how much she cared for Blythe and Iji.
Even when I turned my back upon the Two Fingers, Blythe remained my loyal ally. Blythe and Iji both. Art willing to give too much to me, yet they both understand what lieth beyond the dark path, that I must betray everything and rid the world of what came before. Should I add thee to the list? Another one, kind of heart. As kind of heart as they. This form hath loosened my tongue. I've let slip too much. Forget what thou'st heard. Forget.
Seeing this character, this person who seems to be so self-assured, who is so powerful and who has done such drastic things, let her guard down enough to tell you that she doesn't feel deserving of her companion's loyalty, that she almost doesn't feel deserving of your loyalty, that just worked for me. It was only reinforced more after I defeated the baleful shadow, and she told me to tell Blythe and E.G. just how much she loves them. In that short time I'd spent with the trio, I felt immensely attached to them. In this divided land, where we fight our own people, where some seek order, some seek chaos, and some even seek death, being amongst these people who are so fiercely loyal to each other was so refreshing. That kind of bond is few and far in the lands between. Not even the Round Table Hold had that kind of loyalty. I continued on through the Lake of Rot, killed a creature born in the depths of space, and reunited with her under the moonlight altar. There, covered in the blood of her would-be master, any doubts I had about Ranni dissipated and were forgotten. Elden Ring is filled with so many core themes: motherhood, ambition, death. But above all, my favourite might be agency. Millicent gains the chance to live again, to remember who she was and carve forward her own future. And rather than blossom into something that isn't herself, she withers and rots of her own resolution. When Melina meets us, she offers us an accord. Take her to the foot of the Tree, and she will grant us the strength of runes. She tells us that she lost her purpose long ago and searches for it once again. Upon defeating Morgoth, we find that impenetrable thorns shroud the way to the Tree, and Melina learns her purpose is to burn those thorns. When I saw this, I was nearly swayed by Shabriri. I went down to the sewers in Lanedale, intent to save her by inheriting the frenzied flame, until she stopped me.
If you intend to claim the frenzied flame, I ask that you cease. It is not to be meddled with. It is chaos, devouring life and thought unending. However ruined this world has become, however mired in torment and despair, life endures. Births continue. There is beauty in that, is there not? If you would become Lord, do not deny this notion. Please, leave the frenzied flame alone.
Those small words right there stopped me. Life endures. Births continue. Eventually we'll all pass, wither away, and the world will continue going on. Because of that, should the rest of the world burn? Should they die alongside us? If life will eventually end, should we just not try? Of course not. I won't pretend it's an overwhelmingly deep message, but it hit me at the right place, at the right time of my life. Life continuing on was enough to make me stop, but knowing that she's acting of her own accord made me accept her decision and not intervene. Just like Millicent, through strife and self-discovery, Melina earned the right to choose her own destiny. No longer bound by the fact her mother gave her that purpose, she decides what world she wants, what future she wants. So why, after seeing Millicent and Melina do everything in their power to regain agency, would I harbour any ill will towards Ranni? She learned that the greater will wanted to make her a puppet, And so she did what she needed to do to secure her right to choose, her right to agency. Would you not do the same? I know I would. So there, under the moonlight altar, covered in blood, I placed the dark moon ring on Ranni's finger. Something I see repeated a lot is that the Souls games don't want you to beat them. They throw challenge after challenge at you, hoping you give up, hoping you go hollow, hoping you lose sight of grace, just as I once did. But having played through Elden Ring a number of times now, I can't help but disagree. Elden Ring is a hard game. I don't think any of you would disagree with that. But it doesn't want you to give up. It wants you to keep going, to prove it wrong. Before Elden Ring, I'd never played a game that had pushed me so hard, especially mentally. It kept going and going until I either broke or overcame the challenge. The argument that the game doesn't want you to win just doesn't work, because it directly argues against that. The closer you get, the more challenges you overcome, the more you interact with the world, the characters in it, the more they start rooting for you. Person after person asks you, encourages you, begs you to become Elden Lord. They want you to keep going, to fight for a new future, to fight for the right to choose, just as Melina, Millicent and Ranni do. Even Alexander is so in awe of you that it is his wish to die in combat against such a fine warrior. It's his wish to choose. If the game wanted you to give up, why do any of this? What would be the point? Initially, I was frustrated with the game because I couldn't see a purpose to fighting these bosses other than winning. But that's because I kept quitting. When I dug my heels in and fought, spending hours upon hours rolling, swinging and dying, I finally had a purpose. I wasn't fighting just to win. I had people to fight for, to fight with. I wanted a future for the Lands Between. To nobody's surprise, I chose the Age of Stars ending, taking the Elden Ring away from the Lands Between and doing a 1,000-year voyage with Ranni as her consort eternal. With the Golden Order gone, the people have the right to choose their own futures. No faith to cling to, no order to be controlled by. Freedom to choose. It doesn't fix everything, and maybe it won't fix anything. But is it worse than doing nothing? To gaze upon the problems in the world and leave them be. To continue with the same order that has kept the land divided and oppressed. Is that worse than burning it all down? Is that worse than cursing everybody? Is that worse than an age of compassion? I can't give you an answer, and I won't try to. But through strife and struggle, I earned the right to choose, which, at least to me, makes Elden Ring special. But what do you think? Maybe you didn't care for Elden Ring. Or maybe I've inspired you to try again. Either way, comment and let me know. And make sure you like the video and subscribe. It helps way more than you know. And that was episode 2 of The Web. So sorry for the wait on this one, but I think this is the longest video I've ever made. So I really hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you leave that comment. Feel free to keep up with me on Twitter. And follow my Twitch. When NIGHTREIGN releases, I'll be streaming at least a couple days a week. And hopefully playing with some of you guys. so I'd love to see you over there. Now, as usual, thank you for watching, stay safe, and yeah, peace.